Deep within the quiet, forested mountains of Vermont lies a place shrouded in mystery, a stretch of wilderness that locals whisper about in hushed tones. To the casual hiker, it appears serene, even inviting rolling hills, winding trails, the hush of wind moving through the pines. But beneath that calm surface lingers something darker. Over the years, this place has claimed lives, swallowed wanderers whole, and left families shattered with questions that will never be answered. They call it the Bennington Triangle, though many know it simply as America's Vanishing Triangle. Within its boundaries, people have disappeared without a trace. No bodies, no evidence, no logical explanation. Just footsteps leading into the woods. And silence. For decades, this chilling region has drawn researchers, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers, all searching for answers. But the deeper you look, the more unsettling the story becomes. Some say the land itself rejects those who trespass. Others claim strange forces pull victims into another world entirely. Tonight, we will journey into the Vanishing Triangle of Vermont, uncovering the stories of those who entered and never returned, and the legends that still terrify locals to this day. Before we step deeper into this unsettling tale, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell, so you never miss another dark and mysterious story. And as you listen, ask yourself this: would you dare to walk into these woods, knowing you might never walk out again? Vermont, with its postcard perfect landscapes, is often painted as a place of peace. Rolling green mountains, quiet villages, and winding dirt roads define its charm. But the very wilderness that makes it beautiful also hides secrets. In the southwest corner of the state lies a region unlike any other, stretching from Glastenbury Mountain into the surrounding woods and valleys. This is the heart of what would come to be called the Bennington Triangle. Glastenbury itself carries an eerie history. Once a thriving logging town in the 1800s, it was abandoned after industry collapsed, leaving behind ruins swallowed by the forest. Few people live there now, and the mountain has gained a reputation as cursed ground. Early settlers spoke of eerie lights flickering across the ridges, voices echoing from nowhere, and the sensation of being watched. Native American tribes who once lived nearby warned of dark energies in the land, telling tales of a spirit that lured people off the trails, never to return. The terrain itself is unforgiving. Thick forests stretch for miles, intersected with treacherous slopes and sudden ravines. Weather changes in an instant. A calm afternoon can quickly turn into freezing rain or dense fog that blinds even experienced hikers. Those who wander too far from the beaten path risk becoming hopelessly lost. But what makes the Bennington Triangle so infamous is not the wilderness alone. It is the people who have vanished into it. The name Bennington Triangle was not coined until the 20th century, but the stories that birthed it had been circulating long before. Locals passed down whispers of hunters who never returned, strange shadows that stalked hikers, and sudden silences in the forest so heavy they chilled the bones. By the mid-1900s, the tales took on a new life, as vanishings became too frequent and too unsettling to ignore. The term itself was popularized by author Joseph A. Citro, a folklorist who gathered Vermont's darkest legends. He described the region as a vortex of strangeness, a place where unexplained disappearances, paranormal phenomena, and eerie encounters converged. With Glastenbury Mountain at its heart, the triangle extended into nearby towns Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, and Somerset. To outsiders, the idea of a cursed region might have sounded like exaggeration, but for those who lived nearby, the fear was real. Stories spread of strange lights hovering above the ridges at night, of whispers that followed travelers through the trees, of compasses spinning wildly out of control. Farmers told of animals acting strangely near the mountain, refusing to graze in certain fields, as if they sensed something unnatural. Campers spoke of sudden waves of dread that drove them from the forest without explanation. It was within this atmosphere of unease that a series of vanishings would cement the triangle's reputation forever. These were not just accidents. They were disappearances so complete, so baffling, that even the most rational minds were left with nothing but fear and questions that would never find answers. The year was 1945, and the first disappearance that would draw national attention struck the region. Mid-Dye Rivers, a seasoned woodsman and hunting guide, led a group into the wilderness near Glastenbury Mountain. At 74 years old, he knew the trails better than anyone. To his companions, he was the one person they trusted not to lose his way. But as the party made their way back toward camp, Mid-Dye moved ahead of the group, walking at a brisker pace. He vanished around a bend in the trail and was never seen again. Search parties scoured the woods for weeks. Hundreds of volunteers, along with law enforcement, combed the mountainside. They found no tracks, no torn clothing, no weapons, no body. Mid-Dye Rivers had simply melted into the forest. Theories spread quickly. Some said he must have slipped into one of the many hidden streams or fallen into a ravine, his body lost to the wilderness. Others whispered that the land had swallowed him whole, that the Bennington Triangle had claimed its first modern victim. What struck investigators most was the lack of evidence. An experienced outdoorsman like Mid-Dye would not have wandered blindly or left no trace. It was as though the mountain itself had reached out and erased him from existence. For a while, the case faded into local lore. But only a year later, the triangle would make headlines again, this time with a disappearance even stranger and far more haunting. December 1st, 1946. The air was sharp and cold, the last traces of autumn giving way to winter. Paula Welden, an 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College, decided to take a walk along the Long Trail, a hiking path that winds through the Green Mountains. She wore a red coat, making her stand out against the pale gray woods. It should have been a short, refreshing hike. Instead, it became one of the most haunting mysteries in Vermont's history. Several witnesses saw Paula that afternoon. A couple hiking the same trail noticed her behind them, her red coat flashing between the trees. They recalled she seemed calm, walking with purpose. At a certain fork in the path, they glanced back. She was there one moment and gone the next. When Paula never returned to campus that evening, alarm spread quickly. Search parties were launched, this time even larger than those for Mid-Dye Rivers. Hundreds combed the woods in bitter cold. The National Guard joined in, and helicopters circled overhead. Yet despite all efforts, not a single clue was found. No footprints in the snow. No scraps of clothing. No body. Paula had vanished into thin air. Her disappearance shocked the nation. Newspapers across the country reported on the missing college student. The mystery was so troubling that it led to the creation of the Vermont State Police, as the state had no organized force to handle large-scale searches before Paula's case. And yet, even with more resources than ever, nothing was uncovered. Some believed she had run away, perhaps to start a new life. Others speculated she had been abducted along the trail. But the most unsettling possibility remained that the Bennington Triangle itself had claimed her. Paula's story lingered, her red coat becoming a symbol of lost innocence swallowed by the woods. And she would not be the last. In the years that followed Paula Welden's disappearance, the Bennington Triangle continued to build its grim reputation. Between 1949 and 1950, 3 more people vanished within its boundaries, each case deepening the mystery and fear surrounding the land. The first was in 1949. A man named James Tedford, a veteran, boarded a bus heading home to Bennington. Witnesses remembered seeing him sitting quietly in his seat as the bus approached the final stop. But when the vehicle pulled into the terminal, James was gone. His luggage remained neatly stored on the rack above. His timetable and belongings were on the seat. There had been no stops, no chance to slip away unnoticed. He had simply vanished during the ride, as though erased from the world while surrounded by strangers. The following year brought another chilling case. In 1950, 8-year-old Paul Jepson was last seen playing near his family's farm. His mother left him alone for a short while, only to return and find him missing. Authorities tracked the boys' scent with dogs, leading them toward the very same trail where Paula Welden had disappeared. But just as suddenly, the trail went cold. It was as if Paul had walked into nothingness. Later that same year, an older woman named Frida Langer was hiking with her cousin when she slipped into a stream. Soaked and cold, she told him she would turn back to change into dry clothes. The distance was short, the trail familiar. But Frida never returned. Massive search efforts once again consumed the triangle. This time, however, there was a body. Months later, Frida's remains were discovered in an open clearing that had been searched extensively before. No cause of death could be determined. No explanation for why she was found in a spot that searchers had already scoured. 5 vanishings in just 5 years. A guide, a student, a veteran, a child, and a hiker. All connected by the same region of forest and mountain. Some left no trace, others reappeared in places that defied logic. For locals, it was no longer a question of coincidence. Something about the triangle was hungry. As the disappearances mounted, so too did the stories that sought to explain them. Residents near Glastenbury Mountain began to share accounts that went far beyond the rational. Strange lights drifting through the treetops were seen by hunters and farmers, glowing orbs that pulsed and vanished into the night sky. Some swore they had heard voices calling their names deep within the woods, though no one was there when they turned to look. Others described the unnerving sensation of being followed, their every step mirrored by something unseen in the forest. Old Native American legends warned of the land long before settlers arrived. The Abenaki people spoke of a cursed ground on Glastenbury Mountain, a place where the 4 winds met and where balance was broken. They avoided hunting or living in the region, believing it to be a doorway to other realms. Later tales claimed a stone in the forest could swallow a person whole if they stepped upon it, vanishing into another world forever. For those who believed in the paranormal, the disappearances were evidence of forces beyond human understanding. Some speculated that the Bennington Triangle was a window area, a place where dimensions overlapped, allowing people to slip into another plane of existence. Others tied the events to UFO activity, pointing to the strange lights and unexplained technology failures reported by hikers. Still others whispered about creatures, shadowy figures lurking among the pines, humanoid shapes glimpsed only for a moment before fading into the dark. And yet, the eeriest detail was how many stories shared a common thread: a sudden silence. Time and again, survivors of strange experiences in the area spoke of the forest going unnaturally quiet. The birds stopped singing, the wind stilled, even the rustling of leaves seemed to vanish. In that silence, dread settled in, as if the land itself was holding its breath, waiting. While the legends grew wilder with every retelling, investigators and skeptics tried to ground the vanishings in reality. The Bennington Triangle, after all, is a stretch of wilderness vast, rugged, and unforgiving. It is easy, they argued, for even an experienced outdoorsman to get lost. The weather shifts quickly in Vermont's Green Mountains, and a clear day can turn treacherous with sudden fog or snow. A single misstep on an icy slope or into a hidden ravine could be fatal. Wildlife also posed a threat. Black bears and bobcats roam the forests, and while attacks are rare, the possibility can't be ignored. Some disappearances, like that of young Paul Jepson, might have been the tragic result of wandering too far into dangerous terrain. Others suggested that human predators, not supernatural ones, may have been at play. Abductions that went unsolved in an era before modern forensic science. Yet even these rational explanations struggle under scrutiny. Why was no trace ever found of Paula Welden, despite massive searches? Why did Frida Langer's body reappear in a location already combed by hundreds? And how could a man like James Tedford vanish from a bus, surrounded by passengers, leaving behind all his belongings? Theories abound, but answers remain elusive. For every logical reason offered, another question emerges, stubborn and chilling. If coincidence and human error explain one case, how do they explain 5 linked not only by geography, but by the eerie silence of the mountain itself. The rational mind may search for comfort, but in the Bennington Triangle, comfort is hard to find. The deeper you look, the darker the mystery becomes. As investigators and storytellers sifted through the disappearances, a disturbing pattern began to take shape. Though the victims were different, young and old, men and women, locals and visitors, they shared uncanny similarities. Each vanished within the same narrow stretch of wilderness. Each disappeared in plain sight or within moments of being observed. And in nearly every case, the land gave no answers. Searchers reported a creeping unease as they combed the forest. Some described finding areas where the ground seemed untouched, as though no human had ever stepped there, despite the fact that dozens of boots had crossed the same soil. Others swore they heard footsteps trailing them through the trees, only to spin around and find nothing. In the darkest whispers, rescuers spoke of a presence watching them from just beyond the tree line, never fully seen, but always felt. The most chilling revelation came when locals began to connect the dates. Each disappearance had occurred during the final 3 months of the year, between October and December. This window of time became known as the Triangle's season of vanishings, a period when the land itself seemed hungriest. Even more unsettling were the stories of sudden silence. Time after time, searchers, hikers, and survivors told of the same phenomenon, an oppressive quiet that fell over the forest just before something strange happened. It was as if the wilderness was erasing its own sounds to draw attention to what was about to occur. The silence was not peaceful, it was suffocating, like being swallowed whole. To this day, the disappearances remain unsolved. No bodies recovered, no suspects identified, no explanations that satisfy. Just patterned silence, and a gnawing sense that whatever is at work in the Bennington Triangle does not wish to be understood. The story of Vermont's Vanishing Triangle lingers like a shadow cast across the Green Mountains. Decades have passed since the last of the infamous disappearances, yet the mystery endures. Hikers still speak of unease when crossing the old trails. Locals still share warnings in quiet voices, urging strangers not to wander too far. And legends continue to grow, as if the land itself insists on being remembered. Perhaps the wilderness simply swallows the careless. Perhaps the disappearances are nothing more than tragic coincidences stretched across time. Or perhaps, as many believe, Glastenbury Mountain is more than a mountain, an ancient threshold where the natural and the unnatural blur. A place where people can slip through cracks in reality and never return. What makes this mystery so haunting is not only the unanswered questions, but the silence that follows them. Families left behind with no closure. Search parties who scoured the forest only to walk away empty-handed. And the chilling thought that those who vanished might still be out there, somewhere between this world and the next. So what do you believe? Is the Bennington Triangle cursed ground a supernatural trap that swallows the lost? Or is it simply nature's cruel reminder of how fragile we truly are in the face of the wilderness? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you would dare to explore the triangle for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and ring the bell so you never miss another dark story from America's hidden corners. And remember, sometimes the scariest places are not in ghost stories, they are waiting in the woods, closer than you think.